Hello boys and girls, today we are going to be watercolor painting. You'll want to have a watercolor set, a brush, a container of water, a pencil or a crayon, and maybe some paper towel. Hello boys and girls, we are going to be creating a drawing, painting, maybe a little bit of both, of an animal holding a heart. I'm going to be making mine with Sharpie white paper, and I'm going to use the bear. I'm going to use the bear as my point of interest, and I'm going to be working on the face primarily and a heart. I'm not going to draw the whole body. And here you'll see some of the basic shapes within a smaller animal's face. A raccoon, here's the bear, basic shapes of the rabbit and the rabbit's face. All right, to create a stencil, you'll need a piece of cardboard or paper. This is just brown paper, and I don't want it to be too large, so what I'm going to do is just fold carefully this brown piece of paper, and from the fold, I'm going to make my heart. First of all, I have to make sure that I bring the edge down a little bit. I don't want to start my heart at the tip. Make sure you're at the folded edge. Go down about ½ inch, make your mark, and create half of a V, the right hand side of a V, and now I'm going to curve up, over, and back a diagonal line back down to make a heart. Now that's obviously half of a heart, and because it's on a fold, when I cut it out, I'm going to have an entire symmetrical heart. I think I'm going to make mine a little smaller, that's big. So I'm just going to cut on the pink line. It really doesn't matter that the black line is there because this is a stencil and I can just reuse it and toss it later, or I can color over those lines. So you're going to need a scissors, and I'm going to cut on the pink line. And once you have your heart cut out, you have a stencil. You'll have a positive shape to trace if you'd rather trace the positive. This is positive. Or you'll have the absent space to trace. Okay, so when you're drawing an animal, you really have to break it up into basic shapes. If you're not making a bear, or if you're making a rabbit or a raccoon's face or a different animal, you still have to formulate the drawing with little sketch marks. I drew a little circle a few times over really softly, and then I go back in, or you should go back in and just sort of redraw lines till you kind of find where you're going to place your permanent line, just like in that example up in the upper left of the bear's face. You can see the ovals for the ears, the muzzle, the nose, the eyes. And I'm going to set this heart right near the center of the bear's body because I want the bear to be kind of hugging it or holding it. So I'm going to carefully trace. You can keep the stencil for a different project. It's always good to have a box of stencils to work with, and it's kind of nice when you've made them yourself. So I'm just trying to draw where I want the center of the head, and I'm going to kind of simplify and make a chin, I guess. Mine's going to be a little more cartoony than the bear you see on the upper left, but it shows you basically a center line, an oval for the nose. That actually looks like two ovals in this artist's rendering. And they have a split mouth where their jaws are inside here, and just a few simple lines. Start it out Rabbit would have the same thing, a raccoon, an otter, maybe a few whiskers. So now, once I have a face sort of plotted out, I'm going to add chin, bottom of the head, and mine won't be terribly realistic because I'm going to have the arms sort of curve around this heart. So I'm just going to keep following the shape of the heart. And if you notice, your hand naturally moves in an arc shape or an arch. And sketching is just thin lines drawn back and forth to kind of set up where you think you might want your lines to be. I can obviously erase this and change any parts that I don't like. Or if I think this is too thin, I'm going to fix this. And we just want to have a feeling that the paws are circling around the heart. I'm not drawing too heavily. I really want to be able to erase. Now, I think I'll have one paw behind the other and make some claws. Needs a little belly. And I'm just going to end it at the bottom of the page. Now, I want my artwork to be very graphic, very drawn, lots of texture. So I'm going to be adding all the little fur marks, just little lines from the top of the head, around the face, and to the bottom. So that's going to take me some serious time. And the muzzle kind of moves down. So I might have the fur a little bit at different angles on this bear. And here's the nose. Erase the center. Little simple drawing. And I think I'm going to use a Sharpie to create texture within this bear. All right, I'm going to be outlining my drawing. So I'm going to carefully go around the edges here. I've sped up the film because it seemed to take forever. And I'm going to choose the lines I want to outline and start adding little details like bear's fur. Give it some texture. You know, an otter would be really fun to do, or a rabbit. Maybe a fox. If you have a face that has like a long muzzle, you might want to turn its face a little bit to show the muzzle. And I'm just going to be adding my outline and my texture now. And I'll finalize this piece of art with paint around the edges. And this is going to be a polar bear, so I am not going to add color, but it might be nice as a black bear or a brown bear. All right, boys and girls, here we go. This is where the real work comes in for texture. And you can see some of the examples here on the left-hand side of the screen. All these fantastic hatch lines, just texture lines over and over and over and over. It takes quite a while, but it always turns out so beautifully to add that fantastic texture to your drawing. It's really going to pop off the page. All right, I feel like I'm ready to start adding color. Remember, always wash your brush between colors. If you want the color darker, don't add so much water. And try to keep your edges clean. Be careful with your brush. Always being gentle with the bristles. And I'm not going to be painting within this bear. I'm keeping it a polar bear, but I want to add some color around it. So I'm going to make a little pool of light green, or I'm sorry, light blue. And I'm going to work my way around this bear and finally be finished with it. Pretty happy with the lines. It really reminds me of an otter. I should have had a tail coming out the end behind it. But maybe you've made a rabbit or a fox. I just can't wait to see what you've come up with. Well, boys and girls, if you feel like you end up being pretty patient with this drawing and painting, you may be very happy with the results. I myself think my little bear looks more like an otter, but that's okay by me. Things change. I thought this was a great statement. Be a tough act to follow, a free spirit with a wild heart. Thank you, boys and girls.